Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I thought I'd start before by just saying I'm slightly confused. I was under the impression points of information were part of debating, but I guess our very, are very good lawyers here maybe found a loophole in the rule book. But anyway, let me start. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, coming from the UK, I'd never heard of ASAS before, I must admit. No. That is shame for me, because it makes sense now. Only the creme de la creme of law students would be able to come up with such an interesting take on this motion. I mean, Alex mentioned that these values apply to all mankind, that she wanted to raise this debate to a more elevated level, and it got me stunned for about 2 seconds. I mean, I was very worried. But then after, it switched back to, generalizing about, men and women, and it got lowered again. But first of all, let me say, you asked for information here about other forms of power. Let me just say that women have soft power because it is to make up for a lack of hard power. Because men actually have the choice between the two. Men have the hard power, but men also can have the soft power. So that is where the difference comes, and that's why women have their soft power. So, and I mean, about this tough relationship stuff in heaven, I mean, honestly, I blame World of Warcraft, ladies and gentlemen. So, life expectancy. It's true, you didn't mention it, I'm surprised, but it is true, it is undeniable. Men typically die younger than women. In France, it's actually 77 years versus 84. But there's a very basic, simple reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, which is that it is Mother Nature's way of compensating for all the lost time. Ladies, think about all those days wasted, curled up in bed, writhing in absolute agony from your period pains. Ladies, think about all those minutes, no thank you, about all those minutes, hours, days, an eye for an eye, yes? Think about all those minutes, hours, days wasted queuing in line for the loo. Every single time I go to a club, concert, even museum, whatever, there is always a gigantic queue for the toilet. Finally, ladies, think about all that precious time spent getting ready before going out. Life is so much easier for your average guy. 15 minutes to shower and get ready actually take 15 minutes. Your 30 minutes will always take 45. I've seen situations at home where my sister would run downstairs in her towel on the phone to her boyfriend and slam the front door just to convince him she's left the house. She's sitting right there, so I mean, this is totally true. But for us guys, life is so much easier. We're not dependent on hair straighteners, nail varnish remover, eyelash curlers, mascara, concealer, foundation, lipstick, moisturizer, fake eyelashes. The list goes on. It's unbelievable. It's a military operation just to leave the house. So I totally applaud you, Natalia, for standing in front of your mirror and being, happy with yourself and your self-esteem, and it is great. But this isn't a universal thing that applies to all women, sadly, very sadly. And Nicholas, you say that gender is so last century. Well, then could you explain, why does your third speaker preach why being a woman is so good for 6 minutes? And then your second speaker complains about being a man. I mean, I'm confused here. There's a slight contradiction, ladies and gentlemen. And you talk about it being old-fashioned, repressed, gender so last century. What about discrimination? We don't even want to talk about the developing countries, because for us it's a given that we'd rather be a man in those countries. But discrimination versus homosexuals in Uganda, South Africa, it's actually part of an election manifesto to advocate the lynching of gays. Now to recap, Jasper. Yes, please.
If you're against all this discrimination, why don't you join the opposition for a better world where people are not discriminated?
Yeah. Thank you. Because I am a pragmatic. I don't live in an imaginary world. I try to deal with life as it is. I don't live in some sort of fairy tale world where everything's great, but whatever. So, as Jasper already told us, he gave a clear out of this case. Let me remind you that this government is stating that it would rather be a man because on average it is easier to be a man. Not because not because it is for everyone, but on average. Raphael, Honourable Minister of Defence, gave a very entertaining account of a typical day as a man, and just why it is so much easier to be a man in everyday life. And Pauline, our wonderful Minister of Internal Affairs, she gave you some of the more unpleasant aspects of being a woman. I thought that as the opposition, I was so deluded by the pregnancy argument that I would add my own pinch of salt, if you'll allow me. No, thank you. Just quote Jasper, to finish off, to say that, to say to all women here, thank you for existing. Thank you for just being there. So on this note, I beg you to accept this motion.